And just as a quick note, we will be recording this and we'll be posting it online so more people can see it and those who registered can come. So feel free to stay, just be aware of that. But yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. And I think with that, David, if you want to start us off, this is our webinar, Worldwide Climate Justice Education Week. We are with the week. So yeah, David, off to you.
Yeah, so hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. I am David Blockstein with Bard College. I am the co-director of the Solve Climate by 2030 project, and specifically our Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week that we invite each of you to participate in. I'll share a video about that in just a moment, but just to say that our goal here is to help people to turn from climate despair to climate repair, help people to see that there are opportunities to get involved in your educational institutions and in your communities in developing just solutions for the climate emergency that we are facing. Our approach is to try to engage educators, both formal and informal, in building and sharing educational opportunities, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. And so it was through this, our work and our interest in helping to reach people where they are, to connect on climate issues, to build both knowledge and community, that we started to learn and connect with the week. And so the week, as you'll be hearing from John and Tina and Ursula, our key speakers today, is a great way to engage in Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week that will take place the first week of April 2023 to start off Earth Month. So I'm going to, Tobias, if you would please share our 2-minute introductory video, and then I will transition and turn it over to John. Don't forget to enable sound.
David?
Where are you emotionally on climate change? 1 is I never think about. 10 is paralyzing anxiety. Can't sleep at night. Don't want to have kids because their world will be to this topic.
The Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week is about helping people move from climate despair and disengagement to a mindset of climate repair. This is the education that changes the future. So Climate Week is for everyone. It's for students, faculty, and staff from all subjects, like artists and psychologists, scientists and business majors, students of music, literature, economics, international affairs, healthcare and engineering, you name it.
Join tens of thousands of people around the world in growing climate education, the first week of April 2024. You're not alone. People on your campus are really worried about climate change. If you step up, others will join you. At your school, you can make climate an event. This means solutions and justice events on your campus. Art, theater, panel discussions, films, faith meetings, music, games, fairs, and displays. Check out our website for examples from all over the world. Engage your whole school.
On top of your events, you can also help to make climate a class. This means encouraging climate-concerned teachers from all subjects, art, history, chemistry, psychology, all subjects, to spend at least half an hour talking about how climate change solutions and justice are relevant to their field of study, how artists, historians, chemists, and mathematicians are all thinking about climate change. We have step-by-step guides on our website to help you make this happen.
Last summer was the hottest in history. Massive fires, heat waves, floods everywhere. We have to stop it from getting hotter every year. You can help organize Climate and Justice Education Week at your school. The biggest threat to our future? Thinking that someone else will lead, that someone else will stop the climate crisis. Now, not next month, not next year. We all need to step up. Join us.
I can just girl talk.
So that's a quick overview. We can talk more about it during the question and answer, but I want to now
Oh, David,
turn it over.
you're muted
Oh.
for some reason.
Really? It says. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, you're all good. My bad. That's my fault.
Okay, all right. So that's our quick overview, and you can see, or you will see when you hear from the rest of our speakers, just how perfectly this pedagogical approach of the week fits in with our way of trying to empower and engage people, and especially to try to reach out to people who are not necessarily the ones who are going to go to rallies and other things, but are aware, but maybe not that engaged. So I will turn it over to John Yildiz and his team to talk about the week. Take it away, John. And thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much for having us, David, Tobias. I really do appreciate it. Great to meet everybody. My name is John Hassan. I'm a community organizer from Raleigh, North Carolina, but I'm currently calling you all from Brussels, where I live now. I will go ahead and apologize in advance that I will be using a PowerPoint for today's, meeting, just as a visual guide. Excuse me, this is my email. There we go. Can everybody see this okay? I'm not actually able to see you anymore, but thanks so much. Okay, great. I have the confirmation from Tobias. All right, so without further ado, I'm very happy to share some more information about what the week exactly is and how it is being used on campuses and universities. Within the week, I'm the US campus program coordinator, which means I'm supporting groups who use it in universities and schools all over the US, but it's also happening all over the world. And maybe just to begin, would be very curious to hear or maybe see some sort of reactions in the chat if anybody has heard of the week before. Yes, okay. All right, I hear one yes. I'm not sure if everybody has. Amazing. So that's really great to hear. But admittedly, it's also not super shocking that it's not the most well-known because we started only mid-January, and I'd be very happy to share a bit more about the context in how this started. But for me and the team at the week, we saw, as everybody here I think did, how fast the environment is breaking down and how fast the climate is changing. I mean, we're in a climate crisis, it's an emergency, we can see it every day, but we also think that good policy and technology by themselves aren't enough to avert the worst. It's not enough. We believe that we really need to be reaching a social tipping point as quickly as possible. And what that really means is getting more people to engage with the climate. That means, getting people to transform their workplaces from the inside out, getting people to take action, to get in the streets, getting people to consume differently, all of the above. But at the same time,
Oh no, it seems like we lost John on the internet.
Hello?
There, cool.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
good.
lost you for a moment, but
I'm sorry about that. What point did I cut?
just at the very end for me. Yeah.
Let's try this one more time. Sorry, y'all. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, it's we really do need to be moving towards not just policy and technology, but also getting everybody on board. But how can we do this when we're seeing a number of different things? This is how abstract or overwhelming it can be for people to talk about the climate crisis. I've seen this a lot in the different students that I'm organizing with. Even in adults, we have skyrocketing rates now of climate anxiety, especially among young people, and this feeling that the future is very bleak. Though at the same time, on a campus level, it can be very difficult as an educator or a student organizer or even a staff member to be wading through administration to get so many different decision makers on board to make these substantial changes. And we only have so much capacity and time while teaching and researching and writing to do that. So the week is really something that we built to do something about that. And this is essentially what the week is. It's a powerful group experience that anybody can use for free to have really courageous conversations about the climate and what we can do about it. As I mentioned, it can be really abstract or overwhelming, which makes it hard to speak to people who are not already engaged and to have these conversations that can lead to the social tipping points that I just mentioned. So the week is really all about this, and having as a part of it, two key methods that really set it apart, I'd say, from other normal conversations about the climate. It's just that it takes people through a really transformative emotional journey, moving past the idea that it's just if we give people more facts, they will suddenly wake up and take action. It's taking into account how people really interact with the climate emotionally, and having norm shifting conversations in a group setting. But I think in order to give a better image of what this actually looks like, I would really like to show you just a 2-minute trailer for how the experience actually works. So I'm going to go ahead and share a video. And can someone just confirm in the chat that this is coming across okay with the sound and everything?
Hi, my name is Helen.
And I'm Frederick.
And with a group of friends, we've created this thing called The Week to really look into what's happening when it comes to the climate and the environment.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Week!
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue dans The Week.
Hi, and welcome to The Week.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Glad you're here.
My name is Frank Johnson.
My name's Ashley McClure.
John and Holly Arbuckle at Singing Pastures Farm.
My name is Yancey, and I'm really glad that you're here.
So in practice, we invite you to meet 3 times over the course of a week, hence the name The Week, with a group of friends, your family, or colleagues. Each time, we'll share a 1-hour documentary film with you and then suggest a conversation you can have in your group for 30 or 45 minutes to explore together what you could make of this all.
It's a journey shaped kind of like a U. Episode 1 is the hard one, where we go down the U and we will dare to look at the reality of what's coming. It's hard, but it can also be a relief, right, we no longer need to try and tune out the bad news.
With episode 2, we'll go a level deeper to understand how did we get here and is there a way out?
With episode 3, we move up the U again, and it's all about us, you, me, and what we can do, very concretely, and how rolling up our sleeves can actually bring us lots of joy and meaning.
At first, we shared this on video calls with some friends during the pandemic.
Hi, I'm Milan.
And they found it so powerful and important that they kept sharing the recordings with their own friends and colleagues. We decided, let's turn this into films.
Everyone tells us that it's a pretty unique experience, one that will stay with them for quite some time. If this sounds intriguing, it's actually quite simple. You know, you can invite some friends or colleagues, you choose 3 dates, and off you go.
Yeah, so we can't wait to share this with you.
Okay. Oh my God, I've just found a way to turn on the video panel so I can see y'all. It makes me feel so much better. So that is in essence a brief overview of what the week looks like, but I'd like to get in a bit more detail about how it actually works. As Fred mentioned, it happens 3 times over the course of 1 week in a group setting. And every time you meet, you go through about an hour-long documentary and then have a really powerful 30-minute conversation afterwards. And I just want to get into a little bit more of what each episode actually contains. And it really does follow this you journey, where the first episode looks at the reality of what we're facing with the climate crisis. And it looks at, how this intersects between global warming and biodiversity loss and pollution, and what this really means for us in our lives. So for people who haven't engaged with the climate before, this can be a difficult one. This can be a challenging thing, but at the same time, it's necessary to really take a hard look at what we're facing and what's going to be coming. And it's the conversation afterwards that really gives people a chance to engage, perhaps maybe for the first time in their lives, with what this is going to mean for them and their own loved ones. So that's sort of going down the U. The second episode is more about understanding how we got here and interrogating the broader systems and stories that actually led to the current state of the environment and the climate. And also starting to get more into the hope and clarity and showing you specifically how people are now already doing the work to move towards a different story and different systems of consumption, of transport, of all of the above. And episode 3 is the last episode that really brings people up the U. This is more of this is where you get inspiration and energy and really the hope, which talks about what I can do and what we can do as a group. So it gives you all different types of actions that show you how you can make a difference both individually and collectively for the climate, whether that's at your home or in your workplace or in your community or in your school or through activism, and really leaving people with this sense of inspiration and wanting to take action and moving them away from climate anxiety and despair towards this very substantial hope where it's not just blind optimism, but an actual substantiated hope in the knowledge that there are concrete things that I can do and we can do. And the films themselves are quite an emotional experience, but it's really the conversations where sort of the magic happens. And if you're wondering, you don't need to be a professional facilitator to make this happen, because we give you a video, essentially a 5-minute video that facilitates the discussion for you. It gives you speaking rules, gives you the question, sort of a structure so you can use, so you don't need to be a professional for this. But it asks you, every different episode has its own question that relates to the film. And this is the chance for people to really share emotionally. And as I said, it can be their first time. Sometimes people cry, sometimes people laugh, but in either case, it's where the norms really start to shift. And just more on a practical note, the week can happen in person or online, in all types of settings. It's happened in people's homes, in classrooms, asynchronously with smaller groups, and then they'll come back together. But even on a very small scale where everybody knows each other, or really large networks and groups will organize the week, and then they'll split into smaller groups to have a conversation. As both examples of here's people have been so kind to send us pictures of their groups. And it's all, as I mentioned this at the beginning, but it is entirely free. Teachers and students have enough things to pay for as it is. So it's really meant to be accessible as possible. We do ask for donations in the movies at some point, but for teachers and students, it is entirely free. And just to give you a sense of where we're at thus far, like I said, we started in about mid-January. And since then, there's been about 17,000 people who have finished the week, gone through the week together around the world. So that's about 5,000 groups organized thus far. And pretty amazingly, about 50%, thank you, Tobias. About 50% of the groups meet again afterwards to talk about, what they've learned here and what they want to do with that information. Talking about what kind of actions they want, or still just coming together to talk about it because it's a heavy subject. And I will also add that it's mostly in France, followed by Germany and the US, and then Belgium and the UK. This is kind of geographically where it's taking place. And there's really a reason for this, is because we have 2 target regions, and that's both in the storytelling and the actions really resonate more in the US and Europe. So we have an English and a French dub, and there's a German dub coming out next January. But the reason for this is a couple of reasons. The first is that we didn't really feel as qualified to speak on places in the world where we have much less lived experience, mainly in the global South. But also, so we didn't want to feel as if we're speaking on behalf of communities there who have the lived experience, but there's also a strategic aspect to this, because it is historically the US and countries in Europe that have produced much more emissions. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but also because the climate crisis as an issue has felt, for some people, especially those who haven't gotten engaged yet, like a very far away issue. Like, it's not going to affect me here in my university or in my suburb. I just don't perceive it. So part of why we tell the stories and give these actions is a way to really convey the urgency, and that no matter where we are, climate is going to be very present in our lives. And with that being said, I want to add a little bit more about how it's being used on campuses and tie that back in, because it's being used in a lot of different ways. A great part about the week is that we know that the organizers have a much better understanding of their own communities and how they want to be mobilizing them to talk about the climate. So that's been used in a lot of different ways. So by educators, for example, it's been used as a way to insert climate into fields where it's not normally discussed, while also making sure that when it is being discussed, it's not being done in a way that is entirely depressing and disempowering. So it's conveying these narratives about hope and action and agency. So you don't just learn, you also understand that you have an ability to make a difference here. And by sustainability staff, which I don't know if there's any people working in sustainability departments here, aside from Tina, but it can notoriously feel, it is a position that is understaffed and under-resourced. So this is a really good way to bring in several different stakeholders in one institution that you might need in order to make the changes you want to happen. And for student organizers as well, as a really strong, ready-made event that you can use to funnel students into existing forms of climate action, which a lot of student organizers that I've spoken with are still dealing with the fact that since the beginning of the pandemic, people are just less likely to be engaged, and there's been a big decline. I think we're seeing the change of things now that it's 2-3 years later, but it's still affecting people who have never been engaged before. And just to show real quick, this is just to show an idea of the scale visually. This is a group of organizations and institutions that have either organized a session of the week or are in the process of putting one together. And with that, I'd also just like to share a few quotes from the students and from different people who have used it, including today from Neil Hurd from the University of Georgia. He's a PhD student who did the week with his class, and he's saying that today was the most engaged I've ever seen our students. I also want to highlight a student from Durham Academy who said, I was just really blown away by the experience. I thought it was one of the most impactful lessons I've had over the course of my education, which is just incredible to hear. And maybe on that note, I would like to pass it to someone who can speak particularly about how it's actually been used in an educational setting from Durham Academy. Tina. So would love to pass it over to you.
Thank you, John. One technical note, I've got a kind of black bar that might in my screen. Oh yeah, that moved it over. That's good. Good enough. So I'm Tina Bessius. I'm a teacher and a sustainability coordinator at an independent school called Durham Academy in Durham, North Carolina, which is in the southeastern United States. I teach a class called Environmental Sustainability in Action. And a couple of years ago, the students in it, and you can advance the slide for me if you would. The students in it decided to make a presentation to the administration to ask for a formal commitment to measurable goals and a public process to work on sustainability. But they were asking this question: do the decision makers actually know enough? Do the grown-ups know enough to lead this process? And their answer was no, clearly not, because if they knew more, they'd be doing more. So that is how we began an effort to really expand the teaching and learning about sustainability to include adults in our community. And that meant administrators and faculty and staff and parents, and maybe even alumni and donors eventually. I mean, we want everybody on board. But how exactly do we educate the adults? That's not really what schools are set up to do. So, you know, we made a bunch of events happen, and we tried to make them fun, sometimes even a little silly, and mainly trying to get people talking and thinking about sustainability. We created a blog and an Instagram account, and of course, we followed current events. And, you know, through 2021, 2022, even 2023, current events get pretty scary. I mean, there's a lot of tough news about climate change and biodiversity loss. And I began wondering to myself and asking my colleagues, you know, how and when do we make room to share any of the feelings that are associated with increased awareness? And I didn't really have an answer to that question, but it was in the back of my head, kind of speaking to me a lot. And then I read a notice on a very old school listserv that described the week. And here it is. John had posted it, and I'd never heard of it before, but I was intrigued. It described the week. It noted that anybody could use it for free. And it also said that the program creates space for real conversation. Next slide, John. Real conversation about the climate crisis and what we can do about it. That caught my interest, and it sort of sounded like something that maybe was what I'd been looking for. So I wanted to get some key players at my school to help evaluate it. So what I did was I set up a few pilot runs of the program during this past summer of 2023. My own schedule was pretty mellow, so I was able to work around the schedule of a few key people and then invite others to participate. We ended up with 3 groups and about that were very small, 3 to 4 participants per session. A couple of people didn't finish, one of them because she really had a strong negative reaction to the first episode. It was just too much, even though she is actually a professional in the field. And she still hasn't watched the rest. But everybody else was really deeply moved, and I decided there was a strong enough consensus to go forward. One of the things we thought a lot about was whether we should show it to students. The official recommendation on the week website that you'll find is it's appropriate for ages 16 and up, but we kind of wanted to think about that in our context. And I decided to give it a try with my sustainability in action class. And I thought that it would be best if there were a group of caring adults enjoying the journey with them. So I invited the head of school to join us, and he accepted. So I planned the sessions around his schedule. And, you know, it wasn't perfect. We could all be together in the classroom, so could a bunch of the other adults. The head of school couldn't be there for the middle session and had to watch that on his own. But it worked well enough to get us going on it and to be able to get some feedback that I can really get in the context of a class where I can assign for homework to fill out a survey and kind of share back results that implicitly motivate the adults to also take the survey. And I got a lot of good feedback. The concept here was that caring adults would help the students process the scary parts of this journey, and to make them feel excited that the decision makers, the powerful people around them, are actually paying attention. And that the presence of the students would also motivate the adults to follow up afterwards, a little implicit accountability involved there. So it went really well. And I asked a bunch of questions afterwards. One of them was, to what extent was the group experience of watching together and talking about each segment reassuring or meaningful? 11 of the 12 respondents were at a 4 or 5 out of 5 in their answer to that question. So very, very positive. And that definitely made the sustainability team that I organize feel justified in going forward with the week and trying to roll it out to more of our community. The big challenge in spreading this program further is the obvious one, and that's time. Finding 5 hours or 4.5 hours in 1 week, or even anything close to 1 week, is really tough in our context, and I think probably in most of our contexts. So I asked the participants to advise me about that, and I asked, what would you say to somebody who is interested in the week but busy? And the adult responses, and I've lightly edited these to fit them on a screen, but they're pretty accurate, trust me on that. One of the adults said it's about as condensed a lesson as you're going to get about climate change and solutions. And then you get to process the information with others. It will be cathartic. Another one said, if you have time to spend on screens throughout a week, then you can make a small sacrifice 1 week for something critically important like this. And one other said, it's worth the investment of time given the urgency and importance of the topic and the quality of the production. Student responses were, this is a representative sample, again, lightly edited. So one student said, do it when you have free time. Don't force it into a tight schedule, and look forward to it as an opportunity and not something to check off a list. Another said, it's just a really good use of time. Even if you had to watch each episode in multiple parts, the message would still translate. Not 100% sure I agree about that, but it's sort of an untested hypothesis. She did say the time commitment is worth it. And another said, the name speaks for itself. You'll appreciate that Frederick and Eled start by saying, we know a lot of people think of climate action as something they don't have enough time for in their busy lives. And they were able to accommodate for this. You'll form new connections with those that mean a lot to you in your community, and you'll learn about new climate research. And the highlighted one is my favorite. Just make time for it. It's our future. So I'd be happy to share the full report of all this if anybody's interested. You're welcome to contact me. So anyway, here's what things look like so far at Durham Academy. We've done pilot runs. We've done a combined student-adult session, and just this week, a Board of Trustees session with 2 student leaders. I don't actually have an update about that because it just finished about an hour ago, but I'm looking forward to hearing hearing the thoughts of our highest level decision makers. We're struggling a little bit to get parents to participate, but the administration is all in, and the head of school has planned a session for the administrative team in the early spring that's going to start with a dinner at his home. So I think that's a nice endorsement of it. And I have a few conclusions to share with you. So the week helps create a common foundation of knowledge and social and emotional connections. It's really good for launching or expanding a campus-wide sustainability effort. Scheduling is a challenge, but in a way that can be good because it generates a sense of importance, a sense of commitment among those who actually do it. And I think the scheduling puzzle just has to be solved one session at a time. Maybe use the approach of identifying a priority participant and work around their schedule, or whatever you've got, you just have to work it out. And I think what we want to do is try to empower others to lead sessions. Don't try to lead too many of them yourself, but do try to track everyone in your organization who's participated. When you can help them connect with one another, you have a good foundation for building a network. And just try to get to a tipping point where everyone is doing it. I'm far from that yet myself, but I feel like we're making progress, and I'm hoping we'll get there. And ask for feedback and share it and implement it. So that's all I have, and I will hand it off to Ursula Stenger. I think you're muted, Ursula.
Okay. Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm a professor of educational science with focus in early childhood at the University of Cologne in Germany. And I also teach in teacher education for every kind of teacher who work in schools. And please, I tell you how I get in contact with the week. I felt sometimes really powerless when I look at the children which I engage in my research. So I went to a climate strike, and I met there wonderful people you see here in a little city where I live next to it. And this was really good for me to meet these people who are engaged in the sustainable development and are strongly committed to their region. And they told me they have an experiment and the week, and everybody can join, and I did it. And it was really amazing and deep experience for me, because we have these 3 times and we share really deep feelings and thoughts, and we learn about our motivations and actions and what really happens and what we can do. And this was a really touching experience for me and connected me very deep with this group. And so I decided to use the week in my teaching and in my teacher training at the university. And maybe the next slide. It's the first time I used it were about 300 students, and most important thing, to embedding the week in the entire semester program. So when I started this course, I told the students that the ecological crisis will change everything. So we cannot do what we normally do, to talk about education and learning and how they should teach the children, because the situation changes so fundamental that everybody has to know how the situation is. Otherwise, we cannot do our pedagogical work. So I asked them to join in own groups and to organize by themselves groups with a week. And I give them free for 1 week. I met them 2 weeks later. And most of them did it, and we told about their experience they had, and it was really good because it's the first semester at the university, and some joined in friendships and organize more. And what was really, oh no, it's too early. These are students' quotes, but I want to tell you how I use the week, because the most important thing is to reconnect in every session and for every topic to establish references. So I reorganize my whole program for this lesson because I want really to ask the question, how must science change? How must teacher training change? How can we talk about every single topic without having our ecological being in mind? So I reconnect to several aspects, examples, and so it was this half a year, which was very good to return to this experience in the pedagogical process. And also important was that there's not one solution. We are all trying to do what's possible for us. And I want to show you some references, because I told the students they can write about their experience with the week in their portfolio. They can choose other topics, but really many of them did. And I read everything again and formed some groups from this, and want to share some quotes with it. And one student says, I thought about using the knowledge I gained from the week and started an environmental club at my workplace, elementary school, based on the ideas and suggestions mentioned. And many of them told about emotions and the need for education. So after watching the film The Week, listening to this lecture, I was shocked about the future that apparently awaits us. Not only shock, but also fear and guilt overwhelmed me, because up until that point, many of my wrong actions were not even known to me as such. Until late in my life, I only associated the word education with the acquisition of school knowledge. In my opinion, far too little importance and time is given to sustainability and the development of responsibility in daycare centers and schools. And some more short quotes on the next slide. The first video made me shed a tear or two. The hopeful images from the second part put a smile on my face. And hope and conversations. However, you are not alone with these thoughts. The exchange with other students made it easier for me to process all the impressions. And the last slide of the quotes. Especially the different perspectives of the characters in the episodes brought the whole topic closer and made you sit up and take notice. And finally, after watching the film clips from the week, I reflected more deeply on my ecological behavior, my consumer behavior, and my use of resources for the first time. So it's only very, very few, and I use the week with every new group I have in this semester, and I am really thankful for this tool because it's really, really good to engage the students without me. And it was very interesting to hear from the experience to mix adults and students. In my experience, it was important to have the students alone because they told me they were very open with their feelings when no adult, education adult were with them. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Ursula. I'm aware of time, so I just want to end very quickly on saying how this all ties back in to Worldwide Climate Justice and Education Week. The ways that this connects back is that there's two main ways, is that you can organize a small session of the week sometime before April to build momentum for Worldwide Climate Justice and Education Week, the first week of April, or the week can even be an event during the first week of April. And especially if you've never organized something like this before, or if you want to create more momentum at your university or institution or school, the week is a really fantastic fire starter, as it were. And you can begin by doing this by just heading to the website, which I'll share in the chat, and I think we can share by email afterwards. But as well, if you have any questions about organizing it, more specifics that maybe we don't have time for now, you can definitely send me an email or check out the FAQ on the website. And without further ado, it would be great if we could use the last 10 minutes to have a discussion, answer any questions. But thanks so much, Ursula. Thanks so much, Gina. And thanks to everyone for listening.
So there's a few comments in the chat that are mostly just thank you kind of comments, but are there any questions either for John, Ursula, or Gina, or for myself? We will be putting the information into the chat. Tobias has been putting stuff about Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. And I guess, I'll just share, I have not yet made the commitment to participate. In the week, I've said we really need to just carve the time for our team, Tobias and Carrie Ann and our colleague Eben to go through this, because I think this is, the great example in terms of the business that we're always we're working together, but we're not talking about the issues that much. So I think it'll be good when we finally do this. So Carla has her hand raised, and then there's a question, John, that you would expect, which is the question about access to the films. So maybe you want to let Carla ask her question and then answer both of those at the same time. So go ahead, Carla.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carla. I am calling in from New York, and I work at Code Nation, which is a tech nonprofit that teaches high school students from underrepresented backgrounds coding. So perhaps definitely not something, climate change is definitely not something that is baked into our curriculum or something that we actively teach. But because of the fact that there is a very clear correlation between technological growth, the minerals that we use for our technology, and all sorts of other connections as to how tech exacerbates the climate crisis. I'm wondering if as part of the films, or if y'all are aware of any other resources where we're specific, where, you know, there's specific mention of technological growth and how it's impacting the planet. I'm thinking specifically because for our students, we very much propose tech or entering the tech world as a solution, specifically because since we serve underrepresented communities in the tech industry, it's about like economic liberation to some degree, like being able to have access to more money to be able to, like, you know, move out of the social economic space that you might be in. So like that's something that we, you know, present as a solution to students. But I've in the recent since I started this work, I kind of find issue in presenting technology as like a catch-all solution with the knowledge that it's actually, you know, creating more problems. And so I guess my question is more about like how to have these conversations with students as we move into a more technological world. And if anybody has any recommendations, resources, other organizations I could tap into, anything would be welcome.
Thanks so much for the question, Carla. I'm happy to answer well, to the best of my
Please do,
ability. I 100% hear you on this, and you know, balancing how to teach tech, especially when it comes to underprivileged communities, and as a way out, while also talking about the environmental implications of it. I think one thing that I've found when doing the week with students is that we often talk about young people as being very, very plugged in and very, very aware of what's happening with the environment. But I've seen with groups of freshmen, especially that I've done the week with, it's really not guaranteed. There's not young people and students are not homogeneous at all, very heterogeneous when it comes to climate literacy. And I think that connecting the climate implications of technology to the justice implications of technology might end up being a lot for students to take in all at the same time, or maybe they won't be able to make that leap as easily if they don't understand the gravity of the climate crisis. That's at least what we do with the week, is we try to first take people in through this journey that takes into account people's emotions to the point where they're willing to take action and have the information, but also in an emotional aspect, because our emotions are a huge facet of how we learn and understand things. But the week might be something as a good first step. And then perhaps afterwards can be more connecting to broader questions of climate justice within the tech sector, which is super important, but I don't know any types of conversation material about that. And as well, to answer the questions in the chat about viewing the films in advance, what you can do essentially is if you go on the website and you make an account to organize a session, you are able to sort of make a test group and view what the films look like beforehand. But what I would recommend is that if you do look at what the film's content looks like before, maybe the first time you go through it, you kind of know what's expecting, and it may not be as powerful for you yourself. It will still be powerful for the group, but if you want to look more at the content, I would say you can do that. You can organize a test group, or you can have access to all of our resources that we use throughout the films. Like we have our bibliography alongside how do I say this? More plain text, like plain language resource. So it's more of an annotated bibliography that is very easy to understand for all of the different things we mentioned. Is there anything, Tina, Ursula, you wanted to add about seeing the films in advance or the resources?
I had that same question about, what am I getting into here? How do, how far do I go? I invited a few trusted people to do the first viewing with me, and spread it out from there. I have found it still is very meaningful to watch a second and a third time. Those have been somewhat spaced out, but I'm trying to let other people take the lead from there. But and I would just like to endorse that in an educational setting, the resources are really powerful. And that was an assignment I was able to do with my class, was to have people go in and pursue the resources, really read the pages and, the claims and look at the evidence provided. It's very well done.
Great. Well, we're almost out of time. So are there any, I guess I'll just add, I'm not going to ask a question, but just to say that I think that this kind of approach where it's building community together, having common experiences, and then delving into them is something that can be a very powerful tool. And it sounds like from your experiences and the data that John has shown, that the week is a great way to do that. And I think that, we encourage you to use the week, to sign up to Make Climate an event on our website that Tobias has provided the webpage, and then to say you're going to, that you're going to do the week. And, maybe one thing that we can think about, John, afterwards, after the first week in April, is then to have another call with people who have used the week for the first time, or not just the first time, but to just have a conversation like this one, and to just invite people to then share their experiences. And I love the idea, Ursula, that you've built this into a whole semester. And so I think that's the question, is sort of where to go next with that. So, John, I think let's turn to you for the last word. And
sure, I hadn't prepared anything, but I just want to thank everybody again for taking the time to learn more about the week and how it fits into Worldwide Climate Justice Education Week. I really do find, in my own personal experience and from the other people I'm seeing organize the week in an academic setting, in a school setting, it really does have all the components to get other people on board, to make climate action much more accessible, and to really reach that social tipping point within the community that is a place of learning, within a campus, within a school, and really get others on board. So then climate action becomes much more possible. It's way more difficult to envision things changing at your school if it's just you who has the idea. It's entirely different if you bring together a group of friends and you inspire 6, 8, 9 people who then all want the same thing you do. And you can start small and it can become something very large. So would really recommend giving it a try, and really appreciate your time here.